discussion, I would like to say initially that I know the author of the bill, Senator McQuay, says it does a lot of harm to minor children if they're not allowed to transition. And I have a report from the Institute for Research and Evaluation that documents dozens of peer-reviewed studies on the harm it does to minor children and why it's not good for minor children to be going through this process until they've at least mentally developed where they can weigh the consequences of it. I'm glad to provide a copy to anybody who's interested. But just a couple opening comments before I introduce the amendment. In regards to children, we see that a lot of the gender-affirming care, so-called, it affects, the surgery affects bodies, some of the drugs, the cross-sex hormones, the puberty blockers, they cause sterilization, and again, the surgery mutilates the child, the minor child, and a lot of this is irreversible. In addition to this, these drugs that they use, there's a loss of speed processing and memory, loss of bone density and stunted growth, and these are minor children members. There's sterility and loss of sex function, increase of heart attacks and strokes, and pulmonary embolisms, worsened mental health conditions. So members, applying so-called gender-affirming health care to minors creates harm on the children, not helps them. A lot of them suffer from what was known as gender dysphoria by the psychological profession. And almost all of them grow out of it eventually, if they're not indoctrinated that they should go through this. And across this country, and even the world, more and more countries and states are recognizing and wanting to pass laws to protect minor children from going through the abuse of gender-affirming health care. So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to offer the A4 amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen offers the A4 amendment. The Secretary will report the A4 amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen moves to amend House File 146 as follows. Page 5 after line 28, insert. This is Amendment A-4.
Senator Gruenhagen to your A4 amendment.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, and members, what this does, it basically excludes the mutilating surgery, the puberty blockers, and the cross-sex hormones from minor children, those under 18. And members, they don't even have the ability to weigh the consequences mentally of what they're doing, and yet this process, much of it has irreversible consequences. Secondly, the gender dysphoria can be treated in these children. And again, I reference the studies that I mentioned before from the Institute of Research and Evaluation, if you want to double check that. We restrict access to certain things in our society for minor children, and that's a good reason, because we want to keep them from harm. So here especially, when they're under 18 and they're minors, we should be protecting them from some of the devastating consequences of going through the so-called gender-affirming health care. That is not hate. That, to me, is love. And I know everyone here that serves, and even the staff, care about the children. So let's do what's right and protect them until they get at an age where they can properly weigh the consequences. Mr. President, I'd like a roll call.